All right, so without further ado, unless there's any questions, and it's nice to see all your faces, I'm going to ask Jeff Benson, Janna's husband, to say a few words to everyone.
Thank you very much, Kathy. And I'd like to add my welcome and thank you to each of you for participating in this celebration. I also want to thank members of this group for all the support and love that you've shared with our family over the last couple difficult weeks. Janna's community of family, friends, and peers meant everything to her. Her community fueled the passion she felt for her work and the energy she put into her relationships. I know her spirit is with us today and that she is delighted that we've come together in this way to celebrate her life. For those of you wondering, Energy Medicine Specialists, the organization she founded, will continue, albeit with a few changes. In fact, the Energy Therapy 2A course led by Cindy Parsons will be delivered next week. So I would just ask you to watch the website, Janna's website, and the Energy Medicine Specialist website for updates going forward. Before I hand the baton and the session back to Kathy, I have 3 requests of you. First, keep your memories of Janna alive in your heart, and from time to time, raise a glass and toasting her. Second, Janna's death was from natural causes, a sudden heart attack resulting from advanced coronary disease. Since we're all in the business of healing, I ask that each of you engage in heart-healthy practices for the sake of yourself and those who love you. And third and finally, if you have, I know many of you have already posted pictures and stories to Janna's website, but for those of you who've not yet, and if you do have some photos of Janna or stories that you'd like to share with others, you can find her personal website out on Facebook at janna.moll. And with that, Kathy, I'll turn it back to you.
Nice, Jeff. Thanks, Jeff. I get to be the first speaker, which is good, and I will keep my rubber ducky going. I will be changing. As you can tell, I'm from Canada, but that's part of my story. Janna and I met at a Healing Touch conference in 2010, I think it was back then. I was immediately struck with her drive and passion for energy work, her productivity, her sense of fun, her courage to speak out, and our mutual love of mischief. I will always remember her words of endearment when she first met me. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "You know, Moreland, I thought you were a bit of a flake, but now I've gotten to know you, you're all right." So from that point on, we were in love. I got to know her better in 2011 when she and I met at Cynthia Hutchison's house. She and I shared updates in research and Healing Touch. At the time, I was the coordinator for research at Healing Touch program. And so we talked about, we could have these serious talks about research and its importance in promoting energy work in conventional medicine and in professional settings. And we also realized that it deepened our understanding that we were kindred spirits in mischief, because we could never have a serious discussion. And I'll take that back. They were serious discussions, but they were never really solemn. We always found the joy in everything we did. So you could always count on some naughtiness when we got together. We were often separated during the instructor meetings at Healing Touch conference, and usually at every other gathering, but we always found our way to each other and caused some raucous things then. In 2004, we made Janna an honorary Canadian so that she could participate in our banquet skit at the Healing Touch conference banquet. She was thrilled and continued to hound me, wondering if this was going to include healthcare coverage. But when I heard of Janna's premature passing, I didn't believe it, probably like most of you. I just thought that there's no, especially since I had just seen these beautiful pictures and the honor she had been given by one of the local papers. I just thought this is a joke. This is like, it's just got to be a joke. I was really shaken and continue to be, because I thought, how could someone so vital and so full of life be taken from us? But now I like to think that she's with us all in an expanded capacity that is beyond any of our understanding. So I'm kind of envious in a way that she's now got the opportunity to be with all of us, all at the same time. And I'm sure she's going to be poking at me. She is like herself now, and I'll miss her. So one of the things we had in common was our sharing of witch memes. And I'm just going to try to show one of, this was the last one I was going to send to her. Sorry. And it wasn't that, I don't know, like that we thought we were witches or that she thought I was a witch. She called me something else that sounded like witch often, but it was always with the best of intentions. And so I just know, Janna, I am going to miss you terribly. And I really hope that you're going to enjoy what everyone has to say to you today, because there's so much to share. Anyway, I have to let some people in, I think. So with that, it's not my turn anymore. And I will ask Monica Niebauer from Australia to say a few words.
Thanks very much, Kathy. Hang on. I first met Janna in 1997 when I'd moved from Brisbane to study in Melbourne for a semester. At the time, I was also a student in the Healing Touch program, and I'd travelled to Janna's place in Hawthorne, Melbourne for Healing Touch practice group meetings. Janna, Jeff, Duncan and Chelsea were living in Australia at the time because of Jeff's work. I remember the first time I met Janna at the front door and entered their home and saw a life-size statue of Michelangelo's David standing next to a tall lamp in the lounge room. Thank goodness it wasn't the 5-metre tall original, but a life-size version. The lamp cast light on all anatomical parts which were clearly visible. I thought, my God, this woman is unusual, fun, mischievous and zany. How right I was. However, I found out there was also a depth of incisive thought and seriousness there, along with a spirituality that was growing and developing. My visits to Janna's home became a regular event every few weeks, and I was quite sad when my semester finished and it was time for me to go home to Brisbane. During the next 10 years, Janna and I exchanged occasional emails, and I was aware that she and her family had returned to the USA with or without the statue of David, I don't know. But I must say that when I stayed at Jeff and Janna's home in Denver a few years ago, I never saw the statue, so maybe it's still here in Australia somewhere. In 2008, Janna contacted me to ask if I would be a member of the first ethics committee she'd been asked to establish the Healing Touch program. Of course, I said yes. Janna was the first chair of this committee, which met by teleconference about once every month. I was the only member of the committee outside the USA or Canada. After 4 to 5 years, Janna stepped down as committee chair, but continued as a consultant to the committee. I remained on the ethics committee until 2017. During this time, despite her laughter and zany humour, I discovered Janna possessed an analytical, incisive and very deep mind. I also discovered that ethics was very close to her heart, and she was passionate about setting high standards of ethical behaviour for people practising and teaching energy therapies. Over the next years and until 2019, when COVID struck, I would visit the USA every 1 to 2 years for conferences and related meetings, and love catching up with Janna and her crazy hats. Janna has always had a great love for Australia. She was aware we were establishing an Australian Healing Touch Program Association. When I told Janna about our inaugural 2022 conference, she jumped in and said she would love to be one of our keynote speakers, and we were delighted. However, we were devastated when we heard about Janna's untimely and unexpected passing. While we were still reeling from the shock and wondering if we should cancel our conference, which was only 6 weeks away, I was contacted by Cindy Parsons and then Shelley Francis, both close friends and colleagues of Janna. Shelley had been working closely with Janna, recording videos and audio tapes. Only a few weeks before she passed, Janna had shared her keynote session outline with Shelley. We were extremely grateful when Shelley, strongly supported by Janna's husband, Jeff, and family, and thank you so much, Jeff, generously offered to present Janna's session at our conference, and she titled it Humans as Light Emerging, The Heart is Our Stairway to Heaven, which we all know she's living in right now. Janna's session will be adapted from previous recordings and introduced live by Shelley. I want to invite all of you to register for our inaugural Australian Healing Touch Conference to be held virtually on September the 9th, North American time, just 3 weeks away. All conference sessions, including concurrent workshops, will be recorded and available to registrants afterwards. Please join us at our conference as we honour our beautiful and unforgettable and mischievous and crazy Janna by hearing her last address to us, presented by her close friend, Shelley Francis. Thank you all so much, and thank you, Jeff.
Thank you so much, Monica. I'm sure that tape of hers is going to be cherished for a long time.
Thank you.
Now, I have to keep changing into different outfits for these presenters, and our next presenter is known to all of us as the founder of the Clown Chakra. So I'm going to ask Marianne Jeffrey to speak about, who is also a member of the ethics committee, to speak to us about Janna and her participation in the transition that took place between HTI and HTP, or whatever else she wants, because Marianne can talk about Janna probably for hours. Go ahead, Marianne. I can't see if Marianne's on. Marianne, are you on a phone?
I'm on. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, thankfully.
Okay, here I am. Yeah, I was trying to unmute. I almost forgot about the clown chakra thing because Jan and I always had so much fun with it. But I would have to say that Janna had the biggest clown chakra in the whole world. And as there'll be so many people that will say so many awesome things about her dedication, her organization, her contributions to the Healing Touch program, creating the entire mentorship program early on. She did so much for the program, and I was so honored to be part of her and her life. And Jan and I taught at least 5 different times. We would teach level 4 and 5 together, so we would alternate teaching level 4 and 5. And I have to say, all the classes she taught, all the participants just loved her humor. She just kept everybody engaged and laughing. But the one thing I just want to talk about the most is the time that Janna and we were the 2 designated instructors when Healing Touch decided to try to teach Healing Touch on a Carnival cruise ship. So we had this wonderful experience. And when we got on the cruise ship, for some reason, something got goofed up. Janna was teaching level 5 and she had no classroom on a Carnival cruise ship. So you can imagine having to meet with all like 20 students at 8 different locations that the cruise line was trying to find her a space at some bar or something. It was hard to get any private space at all. And I thought that was Janna's greatest moment. she met that challenge with courage, with humor. I was so glad it was her teaching that level, not me. I was nice. I gave her my classroom 3 times. So, but I think that day she almost quit Healing Touch, but I'm so glad she stayed in. It was so stressful for her. But I don't know any other instructor that could have met that challenge without a classroom on a Carnival cruise ship, where half the participants on a Carnival cruise ship drank too much, and we get all these strangers show up in a class. It was kind of fun. But she's just my awesome friend. I miss her. She's been at my home many times with Cynthia Hutchinson and others, being on so many planning committees. So to Janna's husband, we just love her. There's just no words, except obviously she's doing more work from the world of spirit. She's probably going to save a place for all of us. So when I'm ready to leave Earth plane, she'll be pulling me up. I'm sure she'll be doing that. So that's just really all I'm going to say. There'll be so many awesome things said about her tonight, but she was just at her crowning glory, being so elegant and gracious, teaching on a cruise ship. So that's my story. I'm through.
Thank you, Marianne. You made it without getting squeaked at.
You didn't have to squeak
Here
me.
you go.
Okay, thanks.
Everybody's being so good. So speaking of cruise ships, the next speaker is Shelley Francis. Shelley, I hope you're there. If you want to unmute, we'd love to hear your stories.
Thank you. When I first met Janna, it was a matter of life and death. It was January 1999, a few months after my husband then had been diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor and had had surgery and radiation. We didn't know yet that his tumor was doubling in size during radiation. A Healing Touch practitioner and friend, Joan Stouffer in Cincinnati, emailed to say she knew a highly trained practitioner named Janna Moll who had just moved from Australia. Not only was she a Healing Touch practitioner, she was a certified instructor and a medical intuitive, although Janna wouldn't have used that term herself. I thought, a humble healer. I liked her already. I first met Janna in person when she pulled up outside our house, pulling her treatment table from the back of her SUV. I was struck by her brilliant blue eyes and easy laugh. She hit it off with my husband, Scott, and as they had more and more sessions together, I didn't know details, only that Janna got him talking about his fears of dying and his intentions for living. I saw a shift in him, as if his inner samurai was waking up. I thought I'd like to have some sessions myself. I thought about the saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. In that first year of knowing Janna, she came to our house and the hospital before and after Scott's second surgery, 3 rounds of chemo, plus high-dose chemo and a stem cell rescue. What I liked about Janna is that she saw her role as integrative and complementary, not as an alternative to Western medicine. Janna and Carol Comator, working as a team, both made a huge difference in Scott's survival and healing. He's still alive and well today, 23 years later, after first being told he'd live only 2 to 5 years, maybe 10. That first summer, Janna also got our 5-year-old son, Will, on the table to help him express his anger about his dad's brain tumor. She taught us it's okay to be angry, especially at your mom or at God. They can take it. Janna taught me so much about the science and soul of energy medicine. We had even started writing a book together with that as the subtitle. As I was preparing this talk, I saw how much Janna taught me that has become second nature. You might recognize similar lessons. Janna taught me to open the chakras in my hands by pressing my thumb in each palm, and how to use my fingers like a laser to cauterize Will's bloody noses or mine. When I needed to get through Scott's second surgery, she suggested I find a mantra, and on her table, these words came to me: shielded, grounded, surrounded by love. I still use that mantra today. When I needed to surrender control over outcomes, she said to write down my hope or prayer on a little piece of paper and put it in a bowl designated as something for God to handle. I painted those words on a bowl and I still use it today. When I had to discern new directions about my life or career, or when she was talking about the ethics of energy medicine, she'd often say, just because you can doesn't mean you should. I think of that phrase often. When a body part was in pain, she would remind me everything is symbolic. She meant dreams and events too. She'd explain the symbology in terms of which chakra or which of the 7 levels of chakra or which field or meridian, or even if it was about my hara out of alignment. The last time we talked, I asked her about the symbology of my thumb pain. We laughed when she said, that's about reaching for your future. Janna also taught me to pay attention to where my hands were placed the moment I woke up, which chakra they were over, because that was my higher self and my angels working to heal me as I slept. I've been remembering that lately. According to Janna, her love language was giving gifts. I'd say her love language was also energy. Her energy was a gift on so many levels to so many people. When Janna transitioned back into pure energy in July, like all of you, I felt such shock and loss. I can hardly imagine my life without Janna's physical presence. On top of losing my mom last winter, then losing Janna, it felt like both my training wheels had been removed without my permission. I had to have a talk with my inner little girl, as Janna taught me, to hear my own fear. Who's going to take care of me now? I assured my inner child that I would, and we would be fine. I also heard, as clear as a bell, Janna's voice saying gently, "You're ready, darling. I am with you and within you." Then I had this thought: when the student is ready, the teacher disappears. I can still hear how at the end of a session, she'd be scribbling her documentation notes, and then she would quietly say, "You can come back when you're ready." I want to say that to her now. Here are some words from a book she recently recommended called The Great Witch of Brittany. For the gift of you, my friend, my soul brims with gladness. For the loss of you, my friend, my heart is rent with sadness. What I know for sure, what Janna did too, is that the soul doesn't disappear. She is with us and within us all. All the gifts she bestowed are alive in us when we remember and listen.
Shelley, that was beautiful. I'm trying to compose myself to introduce the next person. And that next person is Dear Carol Commodore, is Denise Hollis, also one of the students from EMS. Denise, can you unmute?
Hi, thanks, Kathy. I am a Healing Touch certified practitioner, and that is how I know Janna. But Janna is my soul sister. We met when she taught me level 4 of Healing Touch in 2012. We felt an instant bond, and in the class, she told me about my life as if we'd known each other for years. One of the things I liked about taking level 4 with her was her sense of humor to help any tension the students were feeling. That included telling the Lena and Oli jokes. I could never remember quite how the joke went and asked her to retell it many times. If you haven't heard the joke, ask someone who remembers it, obviously not me for sure, to tell it to you. Another is the wearing of all the fun hats. I am so glad we are honoring her by wearing our favorite hats. The baseball cap I am wearing is my favorite because it indicates where I live in Carlsbad, California. I love where I live, and walking the beach is a favorite pastime. Janna loved it when I sent her Marco Polo videos as I walked on the beach and sang songs to her. I shared a few Healing Touch levels of teaching with Janna as student and as coordinator for her and sometimes for other instructors. Another story is when I took level 5 and Janna was the instructor for level 4 happening at the same time. And of course, Marianne Jeffrey was a level 5 instructor. And Marianne, you may remember this. Janna was reviewing the level 5 homework. When she looked at my homework, she felt that I had not acted within the scope of practice and greatly challenged me. It was a bit daunting, but I understood her high level of ethics and her desire for the clients to be protected and provided the greatest level of ethics, integrity, and care. It was a tense moment. We went back and forth a bit. Afterwards, other students came to me and offered their sympathy for what had occurred. I let them know that I understood Janna's pushback and in fact, even appreciated it. When there was a break, Janna went outside and picked some flowers that were growing and gave them to me. She could be tough when her principles were challenged, but it was always done with love and her sense of what was right and best for the students. We knew we were soul sisters because at a Healing Touch conference, we ended up with different roommates, but we shared a connected room. When we independently had our aura pictures taken, to our delightful surprise, they were almost identical. Signs of our connection were always being revealed. We drove the same color and model of car, blue Toyota RAV4s. I'm changing my hats. We were both from Detroit, Michigan. Janna was actually from a suburb of Detroit, but claimed Detroit. We were both Leos, Janna August the 3rd and me August the 12th. As we got closer in our relationship and I joined Jeff and Janna on vacations, we discovered we even liked and disliked the same food. One such time was when Janna broke her arm. Oh no, we could be together in person or over the phone and giggle like teenagers. One such time was when Janna broke her arm and told me I would have to do her hair. Now, black hair is a different texture. And while I knew how to braid, I told her, girl, I don't know how your hair is going to come out. We laughed. I did it anyway, and it was decent enough to go out in public. She mentored me and I mentored her. For the last almost 3 years, we saw each other along with Shelley Francis and Wendy Warpesky on a Zoom call every Thursday. In the thick of the pandemic, this sustained me with connection, support, and hope. Thursdays will forevermore have a special meaning to me. I am so grateful that I spoke to Janna shortly before she left this dimension, and I ended the call with, okay, sister, I love you. Our relationship, it was truly one of mutual respect, love, and support. There are many memories to keep her spirit alive in my life and in my heart. So here's to you, Janna. I love you still.
Thank you so much, Denise. That was really beautiful. I had to wear my animal hat because our next speaker is the one and only Carol Commodore. I don't think we have Healing Touch for alligators yet, but I'm working on it with her to try to advocate for these poor souls. Anyway, Carol, take it away.
Good. Okay, I'm going to change into my cowboy hat. There we go. All right, I'm going to have a few pictures up as I speak. Are they hearing me? Yes, yeah, okay.
I hear you.
All right, good. Let me. There we go. Okay. So I'll be scrolling some extra pictures of trips that I had after I tell my story. So in 1997, I mentored an upper level Healing Touch class where I met Janna Moll. She was an American who traveled from Australia to advance her Healing Touch training. This vivacious, funny person presented herself with confidence, skill, and heart. We laughed 1 minute and then went into a deeper, more serious level the next. I enjoyed our brief interactions during the class, and at the end of the class, I wished her well on her travels back to Australia. The next spring, Janna emailed me and asked if I would help her find a new home in the Denver area. She and her family were being transferred back to the States with Jeff's job, and she needed to find the next landing place. She toured with me the greater Denver area, and I showed her the different neighborhoods and schools. And lucky for me, it happened that Janna and Jeff decided to move to Highlands Ranch, only a mile away from me. Our close proximity gave us opportunity to carpool to the Healing Touch classes, meetings, and events held at the HT headquarters. The 45-minute commute each way afforded us fun and deep discussion of all things pertaining to our world. At one point, Janet Menken even asked if we were joined at the hip because she saw us together all the time. And we assured her that we were quite independent. The travel time deepened our friendship and the bond. My most cherished times with Janna were when we worked together doing our craft. To me, it was amazing how we were fed with inspiration and understood the other's logical application for our healing work. Tit for tat conversations and deep exploration of who we were and how we saw ourselves in our lives' path was common when we got together. We came to appreciate these times and the synergistic magic that surrounded our friendship. Whenever I was ready to launch a new technique, I would ask Janna to be my guinea pig. She would almost 100% describe the concepts and energy behind the technique after receiving what we called the new juju. Her understanding and how the tiny energy particles flowed through her body during those sessions was voiced as if she was reading from my course manual. I love the validating feedback. In 2002, Janna was on my table receiving an energy session. She was feeling depleted, overwhelmed, and overscheduled. We set intention to create a calm, grounding balance and began her session. The energy guided my hands placement differently than ever before, and the energy flowing through my hands fluctuated with intensity during the entire session. After the session, Janna reported a shift in the energy flow through her body and a sense of focus and increased energy. For me, it was the birth of Healing Touch for Animals, Chi Balance. Working together, we often invited each other to help with hospitalized clients, people, and occasionally an animal. As we traveled to the hospital, we would do our professional due diligence and discuss the patient's needs and how we might create a clear, energetic flow for them. We discussed what techniques would be appropriate and set a game plan. Often the game plan was changed as we worked because the energy took us in a different direction. Those sacred times increased our growth and abilities as practitioners. Janna was my rock, and I knew I could depend on her for encouragement, understanding, fun, and endless laughter. We supported each other in the things of life and the visions of what was to be. I will miss her physical form, yet her energetic imprint will be forever in my heart. I love you, Janna Banna. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Carol, we love you so much. Do you want to share those pictures or do you want to move on? You're muted right now, so if you want to unmute, then we
Okay,
can hear
sorry.
what you're saying.
This
That's
is
okay.
with my dad. He was here at my home, and we did sessions with him during COVID. So he was in end of life because of his age, not because of our pandemic. Here she was in our HTA classes. She was doing one of my techniques, bridging on me. And then we were doing our etheric heartbeat together. We traveled to Costa Rica after her to celebrate her master's degree, and had such great fun. I have a whole nother story I will post on her page later. So here we were ziplining, riding bear on the horses with a bare wooden saddle frame. It was terrible. And then our monkeys. So this is one of my favorite hats of hers with the monkey. And then we did a spur of the moment trip that I will also post a story about on her page. So there we are. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol. We know how close you were, and on behalf of everybody, I want to thank you for organizing today with Jeff. I think it means so much to everybody. Oh, look, another hat. Now I get to introduce one of my dear friends and a dear friend of Janna's, Cynthia Hutchison. And Cynthia is going to do a brief slideshow to talk about our dear friend Janna. Go ahead, Cynthia. You can share your screen. Don't forget to unmute, Cynthia.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, and you can see the screen.
We can see the screen.
Okay,
You're on.
that's great. Hello, everyone. I know many of you as friends and colleagues and students. I'm happy to see so many of your faces. Thanks for coming today. And thank you to many of you who have stayed in touch with me the last few years. From here on in, I have to read because of time limitations, so forgive me. I have something special for you about Janna. The slideshow was made by me several years ago to honor her at a Healing Touch instructor gathering. I wanted to be sure she was properly honored and humorously roasted by her colleagues and friends. Janna loved this slideshow. It has been slightly modified to make it a loving memorial. I believe it will give you a sweet picture of how I knew my friend and colleague, Janna. There are 47 slides, so I'll move quickly to do this in about 11 minutes. By the way, Janna gifted me with this tiara about 15 years ago. It's my first time wearing it in public. I had told her I always wanted a tiara as a little girl, and the next time I saw her, guess what she gifted me? So here's the first slide, and the title was lovingly dedicated by Marian Jeffrey. Okay, let's see, how do I proceed? Okay, so this is Janna and me as babies, and we said to each other, let's do something really cool in this life. And of course, she's the blonde. As a little girl, she knew she was drawn to the healing arts, and she started doing suicide counseling as one of her first jobs. This is true. We reconnected in the late 1990s when she did an assistant instructorship with me in Boulder. Having traveled from Australia where she was living, I could tell that this girl had potential. She liked being involved and was very innovative. One of her highest goals always seemed to be to help Healing Touch program be the best it could be. This meant not only hearing her visions and working as a team, but we knew that Janna never held back on her opinion or input. We could always count on her to speak her truth to us at all times without necessarily using the HTP Oreo cookie technique of how to give feedback. Janna was really a good listener most of the time. You could tell when she was listening closely because her ears actually grew like Pinocchio's nose when he isn't telling the truth. But honestly, I'm telling the truth. See, here's the proof. Now you're going to have to come back to watch the recording to read through these because I don't have time, but her accomplishments within healing touch and energy medicine are numerous. But maybe the one that I'll point out now is she was known as the most hard ass and fun instructor in Healing Touch program. She is the face behind the Healing Touch Sounds True self-care course, our beautiful Janna. And you may not know, she developed the white glove technique for cleaning the aura. Of course, this was one of her skits. Now I need to give you a little background for the next 9 slides so that you can understand the humor in them. This was taken the summer of 2013 at Mary Ann Jeffrey's house. And we worked together with Yolande Douglas from Quebec, Mary Ann, myself, and Janna. Healing Touch program had just achieved its 2nd national accreditation with NCCA. We were very proud of that. And it was a huge credit to Janna because it was her pushing us that made us go ahead to manifest this big endeavor and accomplishment. So we originally planned a girl trip, road trip vacation to play with Mary Ann in Knoxville in her home, but we ended up turning it into a work trip because instead we felt it was important to create a path to HTI, HBB folks so they could join HTP and also be nationally accredited. So these next 9 slides show you how we combined work and play during this week with Janna leading the way for both ventures. So Janna was a hard worker, and if you run a project with her, she really cracked the whip and held high standards for us all. Here we are at Mary Ann's house creating that bridge program, which took us 33 hours of group work. Notice that she's the serious one because she wouldn't allow us to have fun until we were finished. While she worked us really hard, she and Mary Ann also made sure we had some fun. So here's a photo of her after I threw her in the lake behind the house, which she totally deserved. But the thing about Janna, you couldn't keep her down. She always floated to the top. Now, an interesting thing that happened is, she loved hats. Janet Menken was into socks. Janna Moll was into hats. And Mary Ann referred to this as Janna's identity crisis. So sometimes during our work week, we would go off by ourselves to work on different aspects of the program. So every once in a while, she'd yell to me to come into her room to show me something. And every time she had a different hat on. So the first time I came in, when she called me, she had on the lobster hat. Now, some of us know that Janna could be a little gnarly at times, just like a pirate. But she's smiling here because we have just given her some chocolate. Another time I came in and she said, just follow my orders. I'll steer us in the right direction. And another time she called me in and she said, Cynthia, something smells fishy here. And yet another time she called me in and she was singing along the song from Finding Nemo, Dory's song, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. This was Janna's version of Janet saying, just do the work. And then they surprised me and dressed up as twins, Mary Ann and Janna. And here and there, walking around Mary Ann's property, I would occasionally find Janna keeping up with her serious meditation practice. Now you know that Janna loves honoring others. And since Marianne Jeffrey was famous for discovering the clown chakra within the human energy system, Janna arranged for us all to have our own clown noses at Marianne Jeffrey's surprise honoring party. Janna managed enough good deeds in the year that Santa gave her presents instead of coal and twigs, like this cool broom for sweeping, or in Janna's case, for flying on October 31st. Halloween happened to be her favorite holiday. So not only did Janna like dressing up and wearing hats and costumes, she made her friends and students do the same thing. Janna helped the students to decrease their performance anxiety in levels 4, 5, and 6 in creative ways. She liked sharing her hat fetish with them. At one of our Colorado level 4-5 classes, she had her level 5 grads put on a circus show to cheer the L4 apprentices, and she made the theme of all their skits on homework for level 5. Yes, she made her fellow instructors do hats and costumes too. Here, she made us dress up as surgeons and surgical nurses. Just kidding. That was our class of hers that we took on energy medicine and surgery, a great course. Now with the level 5 classes, we would have to call in a whole team of people to help read homework. And Janna had a reputation for going through homework packets faster than anyone I've ever known. So we would call her Flash. And here she looks like she's having a blast. Although later in the day, when I took this group picture of all of the readers, maybe they were getting a little worn out, especially Janna. Did you know that Janna was an accomplished therapist? Here she is listening intently to one of her clients named Dorothy, who thinks she is a rabbit. Her laugh therapy has influenced many other instructors as well. Some more than others. One time, in one of her angelic moments, Janna saved my life. I was about to fall off the cliff at Shadow Cliff Retreat Center, where I just was again last week. This is the place where Janet Menken was inspired to found Healing Touch. And there Janna was to catch me right as I was falling. Thank you, Janna. While Janna often comes across very strongly and assertively, she had a very soft heart. I think I've seen Janna cry almost half the times we've been together, because whenever we talked about things of the heart, she often teared up. Janna had a big heart. And she loved entertaining in her home, especially throwing big wine and cheese parties. Janna would jump for joy when she was happy. And she made countless contributions to Healing Touch program and the field of energy medicine. Notice Janna is taking center stage here in this group of Healing Touch instructors. Janna, thank you for touching so many lives in such good ways through your teaching and sharing your expertise. You inspired us and you pushed Healing Touch program along to NCCA accreditation. You mentored many instructors and mentors and mentees, all while being a dedicated, proud mom and loving wife. You really are a good egg. Instructors will recognize these eggs. We will always be grateful for your colleagueship and friendship. Janna, wherever you are now, just keep being you, no matter what hat you are wearing. And now that you have spread your wings, we are confident that St. Peter gave you the crown you were hoping for. Thank you, Janna. You are loved and appreciated. Your physical presence will be missed by so many. Janna, I have a collection of funny cards and presents and plastic bugs and spiders and cockroaches and hats and this tiara from you. I will always treasure them and our friendship. Please make sure that St. Peter opens those gates for me when my time comes. I love you. God bless you.
Thank you, Cynthia, for reminding us of that great roast. I remember when you did it the first time and how Janna was just screaming with laughter through that whole thing. So we've sort of come to the end of the formal part of our get together, but we are going to have a bit of an open mic time, and I will try to gauge who's going there. We've got a few people in line to speak for 2 to 3 minutes. So far, I have not had to use my chicken. He went on a little bit of a bathroom break while Cynthia was doing her PowerPoint, but I think we could all enjoy that. So I'm going to ask Lisa Gordon to come. When we finish the open mics, I'm going to do a toast to Janna. So if you have already emptied your glass, I would ask that at some point you go refill your glass or put something in your glass so that we can toast her at the end. But I'm going to ask Lisa Gordon from Healing Touch Program to come on mic now and say a few words.
All right. Thank you, Kathy. And thank you everyone for who has presented already. Such beautiful stories and photos. And, I know how important Janna was to the Healing Touch community and to, all the students that she touched with the work that she taught. And people have already talked about a lot of this already, but the cruise was going to be what I was going to talk about. But I love that Marianne gave more details about on the cruise because I'm the one that set up the cruise. And we never did another cruise after that. So, but Janna, worked on our ethics committee. She worked on our mentors training program. She did our certification. She was on the certification board. She did our accreditation. She did the Sounds True course. I mean, she literally was just such a big part of our program. And we cannot express our gratitude enough for how much she cared and her dedication to teaching Healing Touch and furthering the program. So, but I am also very proud of Janna for going on and making her own program, continuing her learning. She came on as guest speakers for us, presenting her work that she's doing recently. And we love that she continued on in energy medicine and creating her own thing. And she was, one of our instructors that taught all levels of Healing Touch. So she was a very big part of our program. And she will be missed very much. That's my heart to everyone here that's missing Janna and so shocked that this happened. And and thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Melinda Chichester. I hope I haven't said that incorrectly.
Oh, Chichester. It's so interesting to hear the similar thread that everyone is sharing tonight. Janna and I met in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania in 2012 when she brought her master horror class to the area. And Janna, in that moment, I realized she is just a master at accessing information and being able to share that in a way that is simple for us to understand. And so in that weekend, I realized what a special individual Janna was. And I found out in that weekend that she needed a coordinator. And I also knew that I was going to mentor with Janna. I was going to coordinate for her. I was going to apprentice for her, but I had no idea how that was going to manifest. And so I was fortunate enough to spend years supporting Janna and EMS. And I also got to spend hours in the classroom with her. So I want to share, when we were in the classroom, I would literally watch Janna like access this information or get these downloads. And so finally I had to ask, you know, Janna, where do you go to get this information? And she goes, okay, wait a minute, let me check. And then she comes back to the room. She goes, oh, I go out the back of my head. And so we all kind of got a chuckle around this. And so whenever I saw, or sometimes I even just felt that Janna was starting to go out the back of her head, I'd lean over to the class and just say, hey, you might want to grab your pen. Janna's about to share something that you want to, might want to write down. And so after these classes, Janna and I would debrief and, we'd have a glass of wine or two. And I would share how grateful I was to be able to be a witness to her teaching, that she was my mentor. And there was just a couple of quiet moments where she shared that she was longing for a teacher or someone that she could, get that information. I guess the way I was sharing how much I appreciated our relationship. And so I want to finish by just raising a little toast to Janna. I have Kahlua and coffee. She made killer Kahlua. And so I just want to say, Janna, thank you so much for bringing you and your light to our community and your wisdom. And I just want to say, you are now living in eternity with your masters and your teachers. And blessings, J2.
Thank you so much, Melinda. I'll ask Cindy Parson to come forward.
Thank you. As we've all heard, Janna, gosh, what an amazing human being. Fun, funny, and so intelligent. I always told her I wanted to be in her head for 24 hours. I could not absorb everything, but it would be a start, a huge start. She was just an incredible person. She had this wonderful gift of being able to study the science of energy and then be able to understand it. So it wasn't just the spiritual, it wasn't just the trust me. She would figure out scientifically why the energy worked the way that it did. And that's how she developed her program that's going forward. It was an incredible gift that she has brought to this world and shared with so many of us. She's all about the symbolism, that there is symbolism in everything that occurs. And she could explain something would happen. She would tell you why, what was going on in the world, what was going on in everybody's small little corner of the world, and how they tied together. It was beautiful. More than once, I would call her and say, oh, great guru, I need help. What do you think this means? What do you think this symbolizes? And of course, she could always tell me what it was. Or I might ask about a dream, have this weird dream, and she could help me break it down so that I could help understand what it was about. We were in St. Louis last year, and my GPS was slow, was so slow. We missed, I cannot tell you how many turns we missed. We went in circles at the airport picking her up 5 or 6 times a day. Everything we did was in circles. We would just laugh about it because we could not go in a straight line to wherever we needed to be. And we kept talking about, what's the symbolism? Why are we going in circles? What's going on? And we never did figure it out at that time. Looking back on it, I think it was time so that she and I could discuss symbolism. It was a way to help teach me to start looking at the symbolism of what's going on in life. We all go in circles until we learn our lesson. And I learned many, many lessons from Janna. She helped me become a better person. She helped me develop strong boundaries. She's huge into boundaries. And learning how to be strong and holding my boundaries is the most empowering thing that has happened to me in my life. Can't believe it took me this long to figure that out. And I just thank Janna for that opportunity. So thank you, Janna, for all the lessons. I promise I will continue to learn the lessons you've shared. You'll share with me from the other side. You've already been chattering in my ear. And I promise you, never again will I piss off the fairies. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was terrific. I think it's Wendy that's going to be next to speak. I'm not even going to try to destroy your name, but it's Werpetinsky.
That is close enough for me.
Okay, well, can you say it properly? Because I always like to learn how to say people's names.
Sure, it's Werpetinsky.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Kathy. Hi, I'm Wendy, and I'm grateful for my friendship with Janna for 1,000,006 reasons, but in the interest of time, I'm going to use 3 minutes to share 3 of them. The first reason I'm grateful that I got to be Janna's friend in this lifetime is that it almost didn't happen. I was introduced to her via Healing Touch because I was dating someone that was a client. So I had a couple sessions and I took several of the Healing Touch programs from her because I was interested and I thought she was interesting. But I didn't have a vocation to that. I didn't continue in Healing Touch. So, and I never would have dreamed that she would be friends with me because I just viewed Janna as this magical fairy person who was to be revered and worshiped and not a mere mortal to be befriended. And so it almost didn't happen. But at some point, one of us was brave enough to ask the other for coffee or something. I actually don't remember how it happened, but we ended up being friends. And the second reason I'm really grateful for that is that I think with just that social piece, I got to see a little bit of a quieter side of Janna. Her sense of responsibility was so high toward everyone, toward Healing Touch and her mentees and her clients and her family and her students. And it was nice to spend just downtime with her. As a friend, she was supremely generous, supremely thoughtful, extraordinarily kind, willing to give advice that I needed, whether I asked for it or wanted it or not. Always quick to laugh, and a friend who was up for anything and up for nothing. I could always count on her to come along if I wanted to do something weird, like go to the cat video festival or something. But I also really enjoyed just doing nothing with her. We spent a lot of time drinking wine or binging episodes of Block Brothers or thrifting. And we shared a love of thrifting. We shared a love of Halloween. We shared a love of festive headwear. We shared a love of Valentine's Day, week, and celebrating any silly thing that could be celebrated. And I'm really grateful for that. And the third reason is that she taught me a lesson, of course. What I didn't say when I was talking about how intimidated I was by her is that it took me quite a while. The first couple of years I knew her, I lived in Centennial, Colorado, about 5 minutes away. And it wasn't until I had moved to the North Metro, like half an hour away, that we finally became friends. And it's not lost on me all of the time that I could have been having coffee in the morning with her because she was so close that I missed. And so I learned that the sooner you get brave or the sooner you get vulnerable, if you admire someone or respect someone or enjoy someone's company, the more seconds that you will have with them, the sooner you get brave about it. And God knows I'm grateful for every fucking second that I had with her. Love you, sister.
Thank you so much, Wendy. It's so obvious how much love surrounded her and how much she reciprocated. I'm going to ask Amelia Vogler to speak now.
Thanks, Kathy. Janna, welcome to this time. If I was to give like one word for Janna, it would be excellence. Excellence in eating cheese, excellence in drinking wine, excellence in shopping, excellence in teaching. Janna, I had her in my level 6 class. I invited her to be my supervisory instructor when I taught my first level 1 class for Healing Touch. I was scared to death knowing that she was flying across the country to not judge, but mentor me in that space, because I too share that sense of, how can we be the best that we can be in whatever we do, and the most honest and with the most integrity. As mentioned, Janna has excellence in boundaries. I know only one person that got away with sort of pushing on those boundaries and winning. It was my cat Meatball. Janna was staying at our house, and she was sleeping in a room that we had prepared for her. And Janna came down and she looked really tired. And I thought, oh my God, she must be jet lagged. It's a bit earlier here. And she said, Amelia, do you know what Meatball told me last night? Meatball's my cat. And I said, no, Janna, what? She said, Janna, get out of my room. And Janna said, do you have anywhere else I could sleep? I said, no, that's it. She goes, well, then Meatball, I'm staying. And that was, Janna's heart. Like, she listened to every living being, human or otherwise, in this world, and danced that web that connects us all so beautifully. She shows up when you need her, and she still shows up. I know that she will show up for us when we need her. She's been a presence and a force that has inspired me, grounded me. She gave me one of the greatest gifts I ever received in my professional career. She called me and she said, Amelia, I have a question for you. And I said, well, what is that? She said, I know you haven't taken my pendulum class yet, but you've taken all the others. Will you carry my credential, specialist in energy medicine? And so I had the pleasure of writing a couple articles and sending them to her with her specialist in energy medicine in print on the internet. And I said, Janna, look, it's out there. Because this was at the time when she was trying to get that credential, with the boards and however that worked. And to get to see it and share that was a really big gift that I carry with like deep respect. And there's been so many other times, like sitting in her hot tub, sitting in Jeff's kitchen with Janna, eating dinner with my husband, taking walks, playing with the dogs. Like Janna she's a beautiful friend to all. So she's just excellence. That's how I feel her. So thank you, Janna. Thank you for your life, your teaching, your excellence, all those little energies that just sprinkle down and become us in ways that make us better people because of you.
Thank you, Amelia. I've had a couple people want to pipe in, and we'll probably only take a couple more. So Kathy Allen would like to speak. And Brian, Stacy, do you have your hand up because you want to say something?
Yes, Janna and I knew each other in high school. So I thought it might be a perspective everybody might appreciate.
Okay, I'm going to have you go before Kathy Allen. Go ahead. You've started. Go ahead.
Okay, well, Janna was, first off, I broke my neck. And so through this sophomore year in the summer, going into junior year, I had a halo. And we just moved out to Plymouth from Detroit, and I felt extremely alienated. And then the brace came off, and it's the second half of junior year, and I'm very grumpy and withdrawn. And it's kind of interesting hearing everybody talk, because Janna was, she kind of would poke me and tease me, and so going into junior year, in the summer after junior year, we dated, and she was like the girl who would tease you, and she would say, "Oh, come on, Brian," and she'd poke me, and she'd run around the tree, and then she'd poke me from the other side, and she brought me out of this shell, because I quite frankly, I was very bitter. I thought I'd been dropped into the Never Land, although Plymouth is a very, very nice community now. But coming from the city, it was jarring. But Janna seemed to know that, and she brought me out of my shell. And this is way back when she was like 17. And I really didn't know all about everything everybody's been talking about tonight, but you could almost feel the energy way back then. And even as in her adult age, she's always cute as a button. She had that quick little burst of laughter, and it was so endearing. And I know you all know it, because that's how at least she did it when I knew her. And I saw her at a party of just a few years ago after her father passed. And I remember we had very nice long talks and hugs, but I can really say that she did a great deal. More now that I'm older, I can appreciate it, to bring me out of that shell, because I'm a very hard person, and so that I could start interacting with society again. Now, this is back when she's 17. I mean, who knew? I had no idea she was doing this now. I had some idea, but that almost kind of is a precursor to what she ended up doing in her adult life. And she was very, very instrumental in me becoming a nice person, a person who interacted back again with society, because I had completely closed myself off. And we were very close, and her parents were great people. She was a wonderful girl. And when I heard that she had passed, I've been upset, quite frankly, for the last two and a half weeks. And I want to thank Jeff for contacting me, and I want to extend my deepest condolences to Jeff and her lovely children. She was a wonderful person, and you should have known her back when she was 17. It sounds like very much like the same person she was when you all knew her. She was just, she brought the best out of people. She brought the best out of me. And I wouldn't have thought that was possible, but I greatly, greatly appreciate it. And I've cried and I prayed for her soul, and I love her to pieces. And I wish I would have told her that. I think the last time I saw her, I told her I loved her. But when, being a junior in high school and you're kind of a tough guy, you didn't use that word. So, but I did, and I do, and I miss her terribly. And that's it.
Brian, I'm so glad you got the opportunity to share your thoughts about Janna, and it's certainly not much of a surprise to me, or probably most of us, that she was a dynamo and a force to be reckoned with even way back then. So thank you so much for joining us and for sharing that perspective on her. Kathy Allen would like to speak too. I'm going to probably only take one more person. So if you do want to say, share some thoughts, please either let me know through chat or put your hand up. Kathy, go ahead.
I'll make this brief and just say that I was on that cruise teaching level 4 with Marianne while Janna was teaching level 5. And she really, really was so impressive to be able to hold that class together and make it a meaningful class for them with all the moving around that they had to do. It was really challenging. And I just want to say that Janna has role modeled for us to be authentic. She was authentically herself. And so many times, all of us have felt, oh, gee, I don't know if I should be who I really am. I need to hide this part of myself, or I shouldn't say this, or I shouldn't do that. And Janna was really honored herself. and who she was. And so she was a great role model for us. And then also, Janna really did what she came here to do in this life. And that's another really strong role model for all of us. So that's all I have to say. It's really great to be with all of you and to be sharing stories about Janna. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy. It is really unfortunate that this is the reason so many of us have come together when we haven't seen or been together for so long. But like usual, Janna's brought us together, just not in the way we had hoped, I think. It was so great, Melinda, that you did a toast, but I'm going to close our day today, unless there's someone else who wishes to say something. I'm gonna ask everyone to raise their glasses again. To our dear friend, Janna, we love you. We miss your physical presence already. We know you're going to live on in all of us because of all the teaching you've done and the modeling of how to be in the world. And if the measure of life, of a life well done is service to others, you've definitely earned your wings, dear friend. You are love. You are pure love now, and we will miss you. We honor you, and you have our word that we're going to watch out for Jeff and the kids and all of those close to her. Here's to Janna.